Hello everyone. So today's topic of discussion is dentition. What is dentition? Dentition is the arrangement of teeth in the oral cavity as it erupts in a human's lifespan. It is a sum total of teeth that is present in human beings. So in humans, the dentition, there are two sets of dentition that is present in their lifespan. Which are they? They are the deciduous dentition and the permanent dentition. The deciduous dentition is otherwise known as the primary dentition and the permanent dentition is otherwise known as the succedaneous dentition. The deciduous dentition or the primary dentition is the first set of teeth that erupts in the oral cavity, and the succedaneous dentition or the permanent dentition is the teeth that erupts in the oral cavity after when the primary dentition has started to shed off. When we come to the number of teeth that is present in each dentition, the deciduous dentition consists of about 20 teeth that is present. That is 10 in the upper arch and 10 in the lower arch. And in permanent dentition, there are 32 in number. That is 16 in the upper arch and 16 in the lower arch. So now we're going to discuss about the deciduous dentition. So what is deciduous dentition? As we had already said, it is the first set of teeth that appears in the oral cavity. So when does this start forming? It actually starts forming prenatally at about 14 weeks in utero, and it's completed postnatally by 3 years of age. The mean age of its eruption is about 6 months. So when child attains an age of 6 months, the first primary teeth starts to erupt, and the remaining teeth and all the primary teeth will remain intact until the child has reached an age of 6 years. And at this 6 years of age, the first permanent teeth or the succedaneous teeth starts to emerge in the oral cavity. At this time or from this period, the dentition is known as the transitional or the mixed dentition. What is transitional or mixed dentition? It is there in the name itself. That is, it is a mixture of deciduous as well as a succedaneous teeth that is present. This period lasts for about 6 to 12 years of age. And then after all the primary or the deciduous dentition has shed off, the teeth that is present will be known as the permanent or the succedaneous dentition. The completion of eruption of these permanent dentition will attain about 14 to 15 years of age. And except for the third molars, that is why, because the third molar is the last tooth to erupt into the oral cavity, and it erupts at an age of 18 to 25 years of age. So that is about each dentition. So we had discussed that human dentition has two sets of dentition, that is the deciduous as well as a permanent dentition. What is deciduous dentition and what is permanent dentition and what is a transitional or a mixed dentition? Now we're going to discuss about eruption and the different sequence of eruption of the different dentition. So before we go into the sequence of eruption of different dentition, first we have to know what an eruption is. So what is an eruption? Eruption, as the term suggests, is the emergence of the tooth through the gingiva, which was later on defined as the continuous tooth movement from the dental bud to the occlusal surface. So it is a movement of teeth through the gingiva from the dental bud to the occlusal surface, where it comes in contact with the opposing as well as the adjacent tooth. So that is the eruption. Now we are going to discuss about the different dentition and the sequence of eruption of each teeth in different dentition. First we are going to discuss about the primary dentition. So as we already had discussed what the primary dentition is, the number of primary dentition that is present is about 20 in number. That is 10 in the maxillary arch and 10 in the mandibular arch. And which are these dentitions? They are the central incisors, the lateral incisors, the canines, the first molar as well as the second molars. And it is to be noted that the enamel organs, they do not all develop at the same rate. Some teeth are completed before others are formed, which results in different times of eruption of different groups of teeth. Now coming to the age of eruption of individual teeth, the maxilla and mandibular incisors as well as all the molars, they erupt at different times. First, we'll consider the maxilla. In the maxilla, the central incisors erupts at 10 months of age, the lateral incisors erupts at 11 months of age, the canine erupts at 19 months of age, the first molar erupts at 16 months of age, and the second molar erupts at 29 months of age. And the mandibular teeth, the central incisors erupts at 8 months, the lateral incisors erupts at 13 months, the canines erupts at 20 months, the first molar erupts at 16 months as well as the second molars erupts at 27 months. From this, we understood that the first tooth that is to erupt into the oral cavity is the incisors, followed by the molars and then the canine and the second molars. Now we're going to discuss about the sequence of eruption of individual teeth. First tooth that is to erupt into the oral cavity is the mandibular central incisors, followed by the maxillary central incisors, then the maxillary lateral incisors, after which the mandibular lateral incisors erupts. After all the incisors has erupted into the oral cavity, the first mandibular molar erupts into the oral cavity, followed by the maxillary first molar, and then the cuspids erupt. First the maxillary canine, followed by the mandibular canine, and after which the second molars erupts into the oral cavity. So that is about the sequence of eruption of each individual teeth, and this is a diagrammatic representation of the eruption. That is, first tooth to erupt into the oral cavity is the mandibular central incisors, and the last tooth to erupt is the second molars. So that was about the sequence of eruption, age of eruption of the primary dentition. Now moving on, the permanent dentition, as we had discussed earlier, consists of 32 teeth, 16 in the upper arch, 16 in the lower arch. And these teeth, they will be completed by an age of 18 to 32 years, if we include the third molars. How it is different from the primary dentition is that in permanent dentition, the first premolar, second premolar, as well as the third molar are also included, apart from that of the primary dentition. Now, which are the permanent dentition? Which are the teeth that is included in the permanent dentition? They are the central incisors, the lateral incisors, the canines, the first premolar, the second premolar, the first molar, second molar, as well as the third molars. Same as that of the primary dentition, permanent dentition also, each teeth erupts at different time intervals. So now we'll discuss the age of eruption of each individual teeth. Just like the primary dentition, in permanent dentition also, each individual teeth erupts at different age intervals. So in maxilla, if we consider, the central incisors erupts at about 7 to 8 years of age, the lateral incisors erupts at 8 to 9 years of age, the canines erupt at 11 to 12 years of age, the first premolars at 10 to 11 years, the second premolar is also 10 to 12 years of age. The first molar erupts at 6 to 7 years of age, the second molar erupts at 12 to 13 years of age, and third molar erupts at 17 to 21 years of age. Now when we consider the mandible, the central incisors erupt at 6 to 7 years of age, the lateral incisors erupts at 7 to 8 years of age, the canine erupts at 9 to 10 years of age, the first premolar and the second premolar erupts from 10 to 12 years of age, and the first molar erupts at 6 to 7, the second molar at 11 to 13, and the third molar at 17 to 21 years of age. So that was the age of eruption of each individual teeth in the maxilla as well as a mandible. When we consider the sequence of eruption of the permanent dentition, the mandibular permanent teeth tends to erupt before the maxillary permanent teeth. So thus, the first tooth to erupt into the oral cavity is the mandibular first molar, followed by the maxillary first molar. And the third tooth to erupt into the oral cavity is the mandibular central incisors. This mandibular central incisors may erupt along with the mandibular first molar or after the first molars has been erupted. Why? Because the central incisors, the mandibular central incisors and the mandibular molars, they have the same eruption time, similar eruption time, that is about 6 to 7 years of age. After the mandibular central incisors has erupted into the oral cavity, the maxillary central incisors erupts, followed by the mandibular lateral incisors, and after the mandibular lateral incisors has erupted, about 1 year after, the maxillary lateral incisors erupts. After which the first premolar starts to erupt in the oral cavity. First the mandibular first premolar, followed by the maxillary first premolar, which will be followed by the mandibular canine, and then after the mandibular canine has erupted, the mandibular second premolar erupts in the oral cavity. First the mandibular second premolar, then the maxillary second premolar, after which the maxillary canine erupts into the oral cavity. So after the canine has erupted into the oral cavity, the second molar starts to erupt when the child is about an age of 12 years. First the mandibular second molar, followed by the maxillary second molars. The last tooth, as we have discussed earlier, to erupt into the oral cavity is the third molar. So that was about the sequence of eruption of the each individual teeth of the permanent dentition, and this is a diagrammatic representation where we can see that the mandibular teeth erupts before the maxillary teeth, and the first tooth to erupt into the oral cavity is the mandibular first molar, followed by the maxillary first molar, then the different incisors, then the first premolar, followed by the canine, then the second premolar, and then followed by the maxillary canine, and then the second molars as well as the third molars. So that was about the permanent dentition, the sequence of eruption of the permanent dentition, and age of eruption of the permanent dentition. And we had discussed about the primary dentition also. So we just learned the basic information regarding the dentition and the eruption sequence. In case of any doubts, do kindly leave them on the comment section below. More videos are incoming, so do stay tuned. Thank you.